Day 116. 2 Samuel 23-24. These are the last words of David, the oracle of David son of Jesse, the oracle of the man raised on high, the one anointed by the God of Jacob, and the sweet psalmist of Israel. The Spirit of the Lord spoke through me, his word was on my tongue. The God of Israel spoke, the Rock of Israel said to me, he who rules the people with justice, who rules in the fear of God, is like the light of the morning at sunrise of a cloudless dawn, the glistening after the rain on the sprouting grass of the earth. Is not my house right with God? For he has established with me an everlasting covenant, ordered and secured in every part. Will he not bring about my full salvation and my every desire? But the worthless are all like thorns raked aside, for they can never be gathered by hand. The man who touches them must be armed with iron or with the shaft of a spear. The fire burns them to ashes in the place where they lie. These are the names of David's mighty men. Josheb-basshebeth the Tahchemonite was chief of the three. He wielded his spear against 800 men, whom he killed at one time. Next in command was Eliezer son of Dodo the Ahohite. As one of the three mighty men, he went with David to taunt the Philistines who had gathered for battle at Pas-dammim. The men of Israel retreated, but Eliezer stood his ground and struck the Philistines until his hand grew weary and stuck to his sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day. Then the troops returned to him, but only to plunder the dead. And after him was Shammah son of Agee the Hararite. When the Philistines had banded together near a field full of lentils, Israel's troops fled from them. But Shammah took his stand in the middle of the field, defended it, and struck down the Philistines. So the Lord brought about a great victory. At harvest time, 3 of the 30 chief men went down to David at the cave of Adullam, while a company of Philistines was encamped in the Valley of Rephaim. At that time David was in the stronghold, and the garrison of the Philistines was at Bethlehem. David longed for water and said, "Oh, that someone would get me a drink of water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem." So the 3 mighty men broke through the Philistine camp, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and brought it back to David. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out to the Lord, saying, "Far be it from me, O Lord, to do this. Is this not the blood of the men who risked their lives?" So he refused to drink it. Such were the exploits of the 3 mighty men. Now Abishai, the brother of Job and son of Zeruiah, was chief of the 3, and he lifted his spear against 300 men, killed them, and won a name along with the 3. Was he not more honored than the 3? And he became their commander, even though he was not included among the 3. And Benaiah son of Jehoiada was a man of valor from Kabzeel, a man of many exploits. He struck down 2 champions of Moab, and on a snowy day he went down into a pit and killed a lion. He also killed an Egyptian, a huge man. Although the Egyptian had a spear in his hand, Benaiah went against him with a club, snatched the spear from his hand, and killed the Egyptian with his own spear. These were the exploits of Benaiah son of Jehoiada, who won a name alongside the 3 mighty men. He was most honored among the 30, but he did not become one of the 3. And David appointed him over his guard. Now these were members of the 30, Asahel the brother of Job, Elhanan son of Dodo of Bethlehem, Shammah the Harodite, Elika the Harodite, Helez the Paltite, Ira son of Ikkesh the Tekoite, Abiezer the Anathothite, Mebunnai the Hushathite, Zalmon the Ahohite, Maharai the Netophathite. Helez son of Baanah the Netophathite, Ittai son of Ribai from Gibeah of the Benjamites, Benaiah the Pirathonite, Hiddai from the brooks of Gosh, Abi-albon the Arbathite, Azmaveth the Barhumite, Eliahba the Shaalbonite, the sons of Jashan, Jonathan son of Shammah the Hararite, Ahim son of Sharar the Hararite, Eliphelet son of Ahasbai the Maacathite, Eliam son of Ahithophel the Gilonite, Hezro the Carmelite, Paarai the Arbite, Agee son of Nathan of Zobah, Bani the Gadite, Zelek the Ammonite, Naharai the Beerothite, the armor-bearer of Job son of Zeruiah, Ira the Ithrite, Gareb the Ithrite, and Uriah the Hittite. There were 37 in all. Again the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he stirred up David against them, saying, "Go and take a census of Israel and Judah." So the king said to Job the commander of his army, who was with him, "Go now throughout the tribes of Israel from Dan to Beersheba and register the troops, so that I may know their number." But Job replied to the king, "May the Lord your God multiply the troops 100 times over, and may the eyes of my lord the king see it. But why does my lord the king want to do such a thing?" Nevertheless, the king's word prevailed against Job and against the commanders of the army. So Job and the commanders of the army departed from the presence of the king to count the troops of Israel. They crossed the Jordan and camped near Aroer, south of the town in the middle of the valley, and proceeded toward Gad and Jazer. Then they went to Gilead and the land of Tahtim-Hodshi, and on to Danjon and around to Sidon. They went toward the fortress of Tyre and all the cities of the Hivites and Canaanites. Finally, they went on to the Negev of Judah, to Beersheba. At the end of 9 months and 20 days, having gone through the whole land, they returned to Jerusalem. And Job reported to the king the total number of the troops. In Israel there were 800,000 men of valor who drew the sword, and in Judah there were 500,000. After David had numbered the troops, his conscience was stricken and he said to the Lord, I have sinned greatly in what I have done. Now, O Lord, I beg you to take away the iniquity of your servant, for I have acted very foolishly. When David got up in the morning, a revelation from the Lord had come to Gad the prophet, David's seer, Go and tell David that this is what the Lord says, I am offering you 3 options. Choose one of them, and I will carry it out against you. So Gad went and said to David, Do you choose to endure 3 years of famine in your land, 3 months of fleeing the pursuit of your enemies, or 3 days of plague upon your land? Now then, think it over and decide how I should reply to him who sent me. David answered Gad, I am deeply distressed. Please, let us fall into the hand of the Lord, for his mercies are great, but do not let me fall into the hands of men. So the Lord sent a plague upon Israel from that morning until the appointed time, and 70,000 of the people from Dan to Beersheba died. But when the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord relented from the calamity and said to the angel who was destroying the people, Enough. Withdraw your hand now. At that time the angel of the Lord was by the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. When David saw the angel striking down the people, he said to the Lord, Surely I, the shepherd, have sinned and acted wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Please, let your hand fall upon me and my father's house. And that day Gad came to David and said to him, Go up and build an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. So David went up at the word of Gad, just as the Lord had commanded. When Araunah looked out and saw the king and his servants coming toward him, he went out and bowed face down before the king. Why has my lord the king come to his servant? Araunah said. To buy your threshing floor, David replied, that I may build an altar to the Lord, so that the plague upon the people may be halted. Araunah said to David, My lord the king may take whatever seems good and offer it up. Here are the oxen for a burnt offering and the threshing sledges and ox yokes for the wood. O king, Araunah gives all these to the king. He also said to the king, May the Lord your God accept you. No, replied the king, I insist on paying a price. For I will not offer to the Lord my God burnt offerings that cost me nothing. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. And there he built an altar to the Lord and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. Then the Lord answered the prayers on behalf of the land, and the plague upon Israel was halted. Luke 19 verses 1 to 27. Then Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. And there was a man named Zacchaeus, a chief tax collector, who was very wealthy. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but could not see over the crowd because he was small in stature. So he ran on ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, since Jesus was about to pass that way. When Jesus came to that place, he looked up and said, Zacchaeus, hurry down, for I must stay at your house today. So Zacchaeus hurried down and welcomed him joyfully. And all who saw this began to grumble, saying, He has gone to be the guest of a sinful man. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, Look, Lord, half of my possessions I give to the poor, and if I have cheated anyone, I will repay it fourfold. Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. While the people were listening to this, Jesus proceeded to tell them a parable, because he was near Jerusalem and they thought the kingdom of God would appear imminently. So he said, A man of noble birth went to a distant country to lay claim to his kingship and then return. Beforehand, he called 10 of his servants and gave them 10 minas. Conduct business with this until I return, he said. But his subjects hated him and sent a delegation after him to say, We do not want this man to rule over us. When he returned from procuring his kingship, he summoned the servants to whom he had given the money, to find out what each one had earned. The first servant came forward and said, Master, your mina has produced 10 more minas. His master replied, Well done, good servant. Because you have been faithful in a very small matter, you shall have authority over 10 cities. The second servant came and said, Master, your mina has made 5 minas. And to this one he said, You shall have authority over 5 cities. Then another servant came and said, Master, here is your mina, which I have laid away in a piece of cloth. For I was afraid of you, because you are a harsh man. You withdraw what you did not deposit and reap what you did not sow. His master replied, You wicked servant, I will judge you by your own words. So you knew that I am a harsh man, withdrawing what I did not deposit and reaping what I did not sow. Why then did you not deposit my money in the bank, and upon my return I could have collected it with interest? Then he told those standing by, Take the mina from him and give it to the one who has 10 minas. Master, they said, he already has 10. He replied, I tell you that everyone who has will be given more, but the one who does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. And these enemies of mine who were unwilling for me to rule over them, bring them here and slay them in front of me.